Hey, fourth grade, I hope you're doing great. I miss all of you. We're going to do a reading lesson this evening about drawing inferences. So I want to remind you what an inference is, and we're going to look at the standard. Then Mr. Joe and I are going to play a game where we draw inferences. We're going to use clues from the text to draw inferences. And we know that an inference is what we can figure out, like we're detectives. We're going to figure out something that the author wants us to know from the text, but he doesn't explicitly say it. So Mr. Joe and I are going to play a game called Super Road Racers, and we're going to read a passage and then draw an inference from reading the passage. All right, so our first passage is called the National Anthem. So Mr. Joe, will you read the National Anthem passage for us, please?
Yes, Ms. Powell. The National Anthem. Before many sporting events in the United States, the crowd stands to sing the Star-Spangled Banner. Where did this song come from? In 1814, America and England were at war. Francis Scott Key, an American lawyer, was sent to Chesapeake Bay, Maryland, to rescue a friend from a British ship. During the mission, the British captured Key and held him on one of their ships. One night, Key watched in fear as the British bombed America's Fort McHenry. In the morning, Key was happy to see that the American flag was still flying over the fort. The British had not captured the fort. He wrote a poem about the event called Defense of Fort McHenry. The title was later changed to The Star-Spangled Banner, and the poem was set to music. In 1931, Congress officially adopted the Star-Spangled Banner as the national anthem of the United States.
Wow, so our national anthem started as a poem. Francis Scott Key was watching the battle take place from a ship, and I'm sure he was really scared about what was going to happen to his fellow Americans. So we're going to look at a question and see if we can infer something from what we have read. We're going to use what we already know, our schema, and we're going to use what the author has given us to infer, to make an inference. All right, Mr. Joe, the question says, why do you think Francis Scott Key wrote the poem? All right, let's look at our choices. A, he thought the flag looked beautiful. B, he wanted to write about Britain's defeat. C, he wanted to enter a contest. And D, he was happy that the Americans hadn't been defeated. Mr. Joe, do you think we could eliminate some of these?
Yes, I think we could. So I think it's pretty easy to say that C, he wanted to enter a contest, is not correct.
I think that's a good one to start off eliminating. We didn't hear anything about a contest in our passage.
Second, choice A, he thought the flag looked beautiful, is probably not the right choice.
Why do you think that one's not the right choice?
Because he really doesn't spend any time talking about how beautiful the flag is or the appearance of the flag.
Exactly. He's not talking about the flag itself. He sees that the flag is flying and he is very grateful that the flag is flying. So let's look at our other two choices. We have that he wanted to write about Britain's defeat, and then we have he was happy that the Americans hadn't been defeated. Mr. Joe, do you remember it talking about how the British lost, or that he was glad that the British had not won, or do you remember it focusing more on the Americans still having the fort?
Yeah, Ms. Powell, he says hardly anything in the passage or in the poem about Britain being defeated. So I think we can rule that one out. That's choice B. It's really not about Britain's defeat.
Right. Francis Scott Key was so grateful and so happy to see that the flag was still there. That's a line from the poem. because he was so happy to see that the flag was still there, that is his inspiration, or we can infer that that is his inspiration for writing the poem. So we used what we already knew and what the clues from the text gave us to be able to make that inference. Okay, Mr. Joe, let's see how many spaces we get to go. We get to move 3 spaces on that one.
Okay, so let's move 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3.
All right, we're gonna keep playing the inference game. I hope y'all are having fun at your house, but also remembering to study and read. I miss all of you, and I hope you are doing really well. Bye.